Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm Alero Edu, and this is Sunrise.
I'm Ayamakine. Good morning, and welcome to the program. I hope you had your cocoa already. If you haven't, or your cocoa, what?
Nothing.
Better.
Nothing. Good. I hope you had a pleasant week.
Oh, yeah, I did. Except that somebody wasn't here last week, Saturday.
Yes, well, for obvious reasons. June 12th and all that comes with it.
So you went and joined the protest.
Made sure that some people actually stayed in their neighborhoods.
So you went and joined the protest?
I don't think people my age grade were actually. Oh
no! Your protest, your own protest is different. You protest by staying home.
But anyway, it's good to be back with you. I mean, I missed you all last week, and things that happened last week were quite unfortunate.
Yeah.
Even though some people say that such things shouldn't be happening in a democracy, that everyone has a right to protest or whatever it is that they want to do. After all, it's a democracy.
Beyond the fact that it's a democracy, it's both a constitutional right and a human right.
It is.
You can express yourself within the limits, so long as you are not
breaking any law.
No, I'm even looking at it from the human perspective. So long as your protest or your expression of yourself doesn't incur in my own space.
That's right.
So long as we can respect the fact that, okay, you're doing your thing, you're not getting into my space. We're good.
My independence stops where yours starts.
Absolutely.
We've got to bear that in mind as well, that the other person also has rights. You have a right to protest, and I also have a right to get in my car and drive exactly where I want to go. And I have to be able to do that because it is my own human right as well.
Except for that friend of yours who you said was traveling out and then had to be stopped because some people were jubilating.
Yes, they were jubilating. And they stripped him almost naked where they were jubilating, took his suit, took his shoes, took his watch, and he ended up back home with his socks and his boxer shorts.
I don't know how that works. It's something he's never going to forget, clearly. Now you...
Well, okay, look. There's a matter that I wish to raise this morning, the issue of speed bumps in Lagos. I actually would like to know if people have to get permits to put speed breakers on their streets. And I'm saying this because churches and schools and residents associations just decide to put speed bumps and without any thought for the road user, because they just decide, okay. I'm thinking about a particular road, for instance, which has got interlockers. Already, the interlockers have not been well locked together, so the road is not smooth. So there's no way you can even speed on that road. And like every 40 yards, churches have put speed bumps that are as tall as I am. And is there no specification for these speed breakers? They're just supposed to slow you down, not damage your car. So I would like to know if Lagos State can just clarify this for us. Does one need a permit to do that? And if so, are there any specifications as to how the bump should be built?
I think this thing also caught the attention of the House of Representatives last year, or 2 years ago, when the House of Representatives, they said they wanted the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to develop guidelines to check the indiscriminate erection of speed bumps.
Indeed.
On federal highways.
On federal highways, okay.
Even at that, so if that exists, on federal roads, I'm wondering, just like you, if there is such a thing, as far as the states are concerned. One can understand what the reasons are for maybe schools or churches to. They'll probably say overspeeding or indiscriminate driving inordinate driving, so to speak, could jeopardize the lives of children crossing the roads and all of that. That's understood. However, it should be within reason. Perhaps that guideline would also help to curtail that.
It's just supposed to be a little hump. So it's supposed to just slow you down. Not you stop altogether and you are trying very hard to climb over this thing and your car is making all kinds of funny sounds trying to climb. And if you have a low car, forget it.
Oh, yes. That happened to me in a particular street, once. I just decided, you know what? I'm not going through that road again. But if you go to that road now, guess what? The other cars have shaved
by constantly having their stomachs rubbing against
it. They have shaved the head of that speed bump. So just imagine what that will do to the bellies of the cars, and the attendant costs that the individuals who drive the vehicles would have to incur.
Yes.
Now, it's worse if they are transport vehicles like those car hailing services and all.
Yeah.
Talking about cars, there's a particular number plate on your mind.
Yes, I want to call out this particular person who hit someone from the back in the course of the week in the rain, and before the owner of the vehicle could come out and see the extent of the damage, this man put his car in reverse gear and sped off.
Wait a minute.
Yes, he was driving a black Venza, and I couldn't take the entire number plate, but I'm sure what I have is enough for him to know himself and tell himself that he was of bad behavior. FST 791. Black Venza in Victoria Island. How can you be so uncharitable? You are somebody's father, you are somebody's husband, you are somebody's brother. You hit somebody from behind and not even a word of sorry, and you just take off at top speed. I mean, don't forget that in these days of social media, everyone is watching. So whatever you do, be careful. You just might find a video of you speeding off on YouTube.
That's part. Will that be a crime?
Yes, it is a crime. You hit someone and you run away.
So that's why we have to look at stemming the crime wave.
That's where we're taking off today on today's program.
Yeah, that'll be our first topic.
Yes, and then after that, this one is very dear to everybody's heart, I'm sure. Surging inflation and poverty. It's a pity, but that's the reality of our situation today.
Underscore the word inflation, and the one that many people will pay a little more attention to would be
poverty.
Food.
We heard last week that 7 more million fell below the poverty line.
That's from the World Bank.
Yes.
But the federal government is, of course.
Well, they say they took 10 million out of poverty.
Is that 10 million out and 7 million in?
Okay, so 3 million are still in.
Okay. So we'll also be talking about regulating the social media. We know all that's going on around that conversation. How far so far and what next?
Yeah. And then, as is usual, we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. And we have a very interesting artist today.
A him or a shim?
He's a he.
Here you go.
He's a he, a very interesting he indeed. Well, sometimes some people would say that he's a shim.
I don't know about that.
Maybe. Why were you asking that question?
I just asked. Okay. It's a question. I ask questions for a living.
Okay,
so do you.
He's very much a he.
Okay. I heard you. So, we're back after now to take on the issues for the day.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us this morning. Every day now, it seems that we're just, every time you listen to the news, it's either banditry or kidnappings. The news is so saddening. I know many people who have stopped listening to the news because this kind of news all the time depresses people. Mm-hmm. But that is the reality of the situation in which we find ourselves. But we're not going to throw up our arms in sheer exasperation. We need to find ways of solving this problem. And of course, like we said in our menu this morning, a major contributory factor to all of this is the inflation trend and the poverty in the land. People can't seem to find enough to do to get enough money to feed themselves. So that is now spiraling into all kinds. People who don't even intend to become antisocial have found themselves doing very antisocial things.
Interestingly, is one of the things that President also alluded to when he said, it's not they are aware of the fact that it's part of the things that is fueling a crime wave, insecurity and all of that. The question then would be, what do we need to do to stem it? It would seem or sound like it's a no-brainer. But to have taken so many years, it is a brainer.
We will find out if indeed it is a no-brainer. And we have people who are going to help us analyze that this morning. We have in the studio with us in Lagos, Mr. Sheyi Adetaya, who's a security expert. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure is mine.
And joining us from Abuja, we have Mr. Olatunbosun Abolarinwa. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And joining us virtually is Oluseun Mabogunje, Public Affairs Analyst. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Yes, let me begin with you, Mr. Adetayo. Today it is kidnapping. And of course, that trend has taken a different dimension because they're now kidnapping and killing school children. That one, for me, is a definite no-no. So kidnapping, banditry, abductions, and then in our immediate neighborhood in Lagos, the one that happens in traffic. Where do we start to begin to deal with all these issues facing us? Of course, there's also the huge issue in the northeast and northwest, and it's now moving southwards, of that big insecurity. All this facing us, what do we do? Should we just give up?
No, we can't. We can't possibly give up and hand over the society to the criminals. You see, one important factor that can guarantee a peaceful society or safe society is establishment of solid criminal justice system. And it starts with the law. In Lagos State, we have the laws, but you see lawlessness pervades. So which means that there is law, but there is no order. And the responsibility of every government is to establish law and order. So our problem is not inability or, the inadequacy of the laws to address this. It is the political will. Or at times we have the political will, but we don't have the right people, or right people are not put in place to ensure that orderliness are established. We've seen each commissioner of police comes with his own strategy, but we know that this is not responsibility of the police alone. There are quite a lot of other departments in the states that should be responsible for creating the environment where crime will not be able to thrive. If you go to Oshodi right now as we speak now, disorderliness has returned back to Oshodi. Go look at the bridges in Lagos. There was a time that the bridges were cleared. Now we have the bridges now. They are now being occupied now. So these are creating, environment, habitats for criminals to incubate. And, and encourage those who are criminals that escape from other states into Lagos to have somewhere to stay. And as long as they have somewhere to stay, they will. Lagos will always continue to attract people. But how much has the government put in place beyond policing to ensure that other environmental issues are being addressed?
What do you think could be responsible for that erosion of order in Lagos, for instance, that you cited? I mean, I have something in my head that tells me I don't need the governor or any commissioner to be able to do the right things if there is an institution of government headed by, as you rightly noted, ministries, departments, and agencies with heads who get paid for doing their jobs. So what happens? What could be responsible for that erosion of order?
You know, I said it before. So one thing is for you to have the plans. Another thing is for you to have the right people. People who possess enough, competence to actually address this issue and also being able to work with others to get it addressed. Like I said, people will continue to move into Lagos, and it will continue to create social issues around overpopulation. Now, what has the state been able to put in place over the years? Because I know, yes, Lagos State tried to plan ahead, but if you look at what successive government in Lagos State have done, it shows that what we see is minimum. Though they are better than what we see in other states. But if you match it up with what previous governments have done, it's still like the baseline. And we need to begin to think beyond the baseline for a growing, state or environment like Lagos State. As long as we allow, we have lots of buildings that are unoccupied, abandoned. And we have laws taking care, to take care of that. Has it been enforced? The answer is no. We keep hearing about, government giving an ultimatum, but no action has been taken regarding that.
Okay, but there's so much to unpack in all of these things that you have said. But we'll take it all up when we return from this break. Just stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. So, Mr. Adetayo, well, you said quite a lot of things, but I think let's take this further. Mr. Bolaniwa, you have been, in this sector as well for quite a while, and it would seem like the issues are, how do we say this now? They seem to be undulating depending on what part of the country you find yourself at any given time. Even the president, made the allusion when, he spoke recently. So there is that issue peculiar to the Northeast, and then seems there is a completely different thing peculiar to the Northwest, and a number of other things peculiar to the Southeast, peculiar to the Southwest, and all of that. My question then is, are they different, or there is a nexus somewhere that we're not seeing?
Thanks very much for this. I want to believe that crime is crime, and it comes in its various perspective or scope. And there is only one remedy to crime. It is strategic alignment, strategic engagement, and the infusion of people that can actually solve problems rather than coming to warm the bench in any governance. So the problem, you are right in analyzing that we can allude terrorism to the Northeast, allude banditry to the Northwest, and allude herders and farmers clash and killings into the forest now. But we may be wrong. We may be totally wrong if we don't take into cognizance the fact that the type of people we put in place, the type of people we put on strategic desk to man this problem really matters. And that's why I'm going to agree with my colleague in your studio over there about the quality of brain we are putting in place to take care of the problems we're facing. Take Lagos State, for instance. Don't let us go national. Lagos State is the nation. everybody that wants to make it in Nigeria, and even as far as Republic of Benin, find their ways into Lagos. And the type of problem Lagos State alone is facing is almost equivalent to the old problem the whole country is facing, which is nothing bad. We are bound to be a problem solver. That is the essence of democracy, giving us the power to be able to solve our own problem. But unfortunately, I don't think, or should I put it this way, that the type of people we have in place handling things are not really commensurate with the type of problems that we are facing in Lagos State, in other parts of Nigeria, and that is why we seem to be going around in circles. And until we begin to look at things from this perspective, we may continue to remove our legs from one problem and deepen it inside another problem. And I think it is high time for all the strategic thinkers in governance to go back to their desk and form a kind of theater to look at things from this perspective and start looking for a solution inwardly, rather than outwardly displaying what they can do, what they are spending money on, like they have done in the past, which is not solving any problem.
Okay. Mr. Mabogunje, central to all of this is the police. They are the ones supposed to look after internal problems such as crimes and all that. Do you not believe that it is time for us to take a good look at our police? And if we need to recruit more, recruit more. If we need to devote more money into, arming them better or equipping them better, do you think it is time for us to begin to look at those options so that they can better do their jobs and better protect us?
Well, I understand that he's no longer at that meeting right now, but I think maybe it's something that Mr. Adesayo can take on.
See, I want to agree with Mr. Olatuposun, especially looking at Lagos. I think the governor of Lagos should start seeing himself beyond being a governor, like president of Lagos. Lagos economy, everything is bigger than that of Benin Republic.
So this Lagos president that you're saying doesn't have authority over the police.
I'm coming. You see, Lagos has been able to do some things. You see, kudos to Lagos. The challenges, they're enormous. And I believe that when you look at the kind of problems you are having, you look at the illness, you look at the right kind of drug. If your headache is becoming very big, you'll not be thinking of paracetamol anymore. You have to look for bigger analgesic to be able to take care of the pain. Is that the problem with Lagos is bigger than what some countries like Benin is facing as we're speaking. So when you are appointing commissioners, don't look at them at political appointees you are appointing ministers. When you are establishing agency, you are establishing agency to take care of what the federal will not be able to take care of you. For example, look at the Neighborhood Watch. The whole essence of this Neighborhood Watch established by Lagos State is to take care of the needed intelligence at the grassroots. But this is where the problem lies. As at the time they are appointing people there, they didn't put the right peg in the right hole. Yes, okay, we have a leadership there as a retired AIG. And we need to look beyond just one man that has, say, requisite experience. He needs to work with lieutenants. When you are trying to put a structure in place for intelligence, then you need to put the right people. There are lots of people in Lagos State that are retired DSS, retired people that have worked in the police CIB, police intelligence for so many years, that are Lagosians, that are in Lagos. These are the right kind of people that you need to put there. They are the ones that will not develop the civilians that will be employed. Over the years, they will have transferred the knowledge. You have a robust, domestic intelligence network in Lagos that will complement what the police will be doing. There was a time in Lagos that the response time to crime was about 5 to 7.5 minutes. That you call the 767 and there was a response. What happened to the synergy, to what then and now, that at times you may not even get response in 1 hour or 2 hours. We'll see people robbed inside the traffic, they call it smash and grab, and then you don't see response. You see cultists breaking, throughout the whole night, ravaging communities, breaking mirrors and windshields of vehicles, and no response. Even when there is response, the response are not commensurate. You see, it is not about reacting. It's about taking care of it before or after. There are people involved in this crime. Strong and credible intelligence will provide you the personnel, the people involved. That's the way the DSS operates at the national level. They wake them up middle of the night and take them away.
I'll really come back to that because of your experience in the DSS. But let me ask Mr. Mabugujai. I understand that he has recently rejoined the meeting. Well, Mr. Mabugujai, you are a security engineer. Question that comes to my mind for you is, given all that has been said and all the challenges that seem to be intractable, so to speak, do you think we have been able to correctly diagnose the primary issues on our hands? The two gentlemen who have spoken with you, your co-panelists, have talked about the need for us to have the right pegs in the right holes. So, with what we have and what we've been experiencing in recent time, do you think we've been able to adequately diagnose the issues both at the regional levels as they happen and at the national level?
Thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very critical question because security and crime are part of a holistic system. And you cannot separate what's going on all over the country, both in the economic sphere, the political sphere, the religious sphere, from the impact it has on crime and insecurity. For example, I think where we are today could have been predicted 40, 50 years ago, because the real elephant in the box for me is unemployment. If you don't create jobs for people, you are going to fuel poverty. When there's poverty, believe me, there'll be security challenges. So you cannot, whether we have a good police force, whether we have a good whatever, if the unemployment is high in the streets, criminals will be created and they will keep on being created. So we need to understand the nature of the problem to come up with the solution. Our security forces, to my mind, with all their inadequacies, are being overwhelmed by the security challenges, which are fueled by the political situation and the economic situation in the country today. So without tackling those two, we will keep raising an army of people who would, in their own quest to survive, would commit criminal acts, because the first thing a human being wants to do is survive. And if the environment is operating in makes it difficult to survive legally, they will resort to other means to survive. And everybody does that.
A quick one.
So,
just a quick one on some one. Yeah, you said something about the economic and political reasons. I think I understand the economic reasons because you talked about unemployment being a catalyst for crime. But I don't understand the political bits. Can you explain it, please?
Okay, so politically, the people must feel a sense of belonging. They must feel a sense of their interest being taken care of by those they put in power to do it. When they don't feel that, whether rightly or wrongly, once the perception is that this country doesn't care for me, then we start to have issues of political antagonism. We start to have issues of, we don't want to be part of this country. We start to have some people are being more favored than others, and it dovetails into a myriad of expressions that challenges the security of the country. So there's the need for us to have a political system that everybody feels a part of. Everybody feels my voice is being heard. Everybody feels the government cares for me. I trust my government. I trust that they will care for me. When that is missing, either in reality or by perception, you have a problem. I hope that explains it.
Yeah, but, okay, go on.
Let me take my question, the one that I asked earlier. Let me take to Mr. Bolarinwa, since Mr. Adetayo chose to dodge it altogether, that the person or the body that has the task of looking after us internally, that major body, is the police. So is it time for us to begin to look about equipping our police better, employing more policemen, looking at their benefits so that we will get people who are actually in there to serve, not to go and do other things that we have heard about?
All right, then. I think the best way for me to answer that question is that point you are trying to raise, we've passed that point about 15 years ago when LASTMA was created in Lagos, when the Nigerian Civil Defense were created to work with police, and we employed people in there to take care of certain problems. When the LSN, or whatever we call them in Lagos, were created to help with policing. So we cannot, we've taken a lot of responsibilities away from them instead of developing them. And I think I stand to be corrected if that is the case. All the resources that we're supposed to put in policing were being taken away from them, and we are creating a sister agencies. So the question we need to ask ourselves now is that, how far and how well? Why are the Civil Defense Corps? Why are the Nigerian Road Safety? Why are the other security agencies, the youth corps, and other people we don't even know about, wearing various uniforms, carrying rifle all about the country? Why are they not being effective? Should that be because we've taken the wrong step in the first place? Should we take a reverse step and think of infusing more resources into policing rather than photocopying them and creating all these sister agencies? Yeah, we're talking about employing more policemen. I'm not really an advocate of that. Why not empower the one you have? Why not enhance the one you have on ground rather than employing more? What is the capacity of one policeman now? How many citizens is one policeman is able to take care of? And why are they not able to take care of them? And I'm going to give you one simple analysis. We have detectives all the way from IGP monitorings to CP monitorings and all over the places. A Nigerian policeman, a detective in Nigerian police today, what resources is available to him to do his job more effectively? He doesn't even have a budget. If your phone is stolen in Lagos and you are able to track your phone to Kano, the detective you are giving the job to, the DPO, the area commander, the CP, who wants to empower that? What is their budget? Is their budget enough to sponsor that police officer to go and recover your phone, prosecute the criminal, and ensure that a signal is sent into the public? So in order to come back to answer your question, a fundamental and strategic error has been made when we decided that the best way to police Nigeria is for us to start creating all these sister agencies.
But where I may differ with you for a little bit on that would be, on the one hand, it is the constitutional responsibility of the police, not these other agencies. Well, the argument that you're proffering, a number of people might agree with you, will agree with you actually, that maybe the police hasn't gotten as much attention as it ought to. But the fact that other agencies are created doesn't in any way remonstrate the position of the police. You would also remember that in the days of the Marwa government in Lagos, there were collaborations between the police and other agencies, and it didn't in any way impair on the functions of the police. At the time, yeah, I mean, the security challenges were there, but then there was collaboration. I thought that was the intention, given the fact that, on the one hand, just as you said, we don't have enough policemen, in operation, and consequently, the only power the state has, any state in Nigeria has, will be to create these, pockets of attendant security agencies like the NSCDC, in the federal one, and then the neighborhood watch that which Mr. Adetayo talked about?
All right, then let me quickly respond to that in a very, very simple way. You see, as long as the capacity of Nigerian police is what it is today, there is absolutely nothing we are doing going forward that is going to make the populace safer. Capacity building of what we have there is very, very key and very, very important to what we have. It is this. How do you expect a man that does not have the capacity, or an organization or an entity that does not have the enough capacity to do their job, to be able to collaborate effectively with all other sister agencies? Collaboration is key, but collaboration comes from the capacity you have within yourself. If the battery that is supposed to supply power to the alternator of your vehicle is weak, you see, you may be embarking on a difficult journey or a no journey at all, because the moment you switch off your engine, you start looking for a battery charger to come and help you jumpstart your vehicle. And in the case of Nigeria, that could mean anything. Armed robbers, bandits, and any other criminal could come and meet you where you are. If you leave your vehicle there, you may only come back to recover the carcass of the vehicle. So while I may want to agree with your submission to some extent, I will still want to point out that the way Nigerian police were treated, the level of attention that was given to Nigerian police, the way the federal government choose to use or treat Nigerian police is not the way of 21st century. If we continue in this way, we will continue to go in circle, and I will be sitting down here again in 5 years' time with you discussing the same problem like I did 5 years ago. So what I'm trying to say is that rather than looking outward, let us look inward and build the capacity of Nigerian police. When I say capacity, I'm not talking about infusing things into them again. If there is need for total cleansing of the system in the Nigerian police, let us look into that. If we realize that they don't have weapons, they don't have enough equipment, and we are putting money and the money is not, it's not really fit for purpose, let us look into that and get value for money. As I speak to you today,
noted. Just one moment.
And now begin to build a police barrack.
Well, we'll come to other. We'll come to some of these other issues that you are raising. You know, gentlemen, you are making a whole lot of sense in all of these conversations. But we'll take it further when we return from this break. Just stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. Let's take this conversation on stemming the crime wave to Mr. Mabogunje. You've talked about the need for us to solve the problem of crime by looking at the causes of crime. And I'm wondering, is this fact lost on the authorities? Maybe not, because the president already alluded to that in a number of times that he has spoken. So, given that that is the challenge that we have, and most people look to the federal government, what should the states be doing, and what should people be doing in the states to stem the tide?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to something my colleague said about the police. But rather than just focus on the police, we should look at the entire security architecture of the country. Because security is not, and I keep repeating, not just about the security agencies. There are many things that have to be in place to make the security agencies function optimally. This includes even the issues of infrastructure. The security agencies are operating in the same space as we all are, and we know the inadequacy of our infrastructure. The police need data, town planning. They need to have addresses. They need to have, they need to know where to go to when there's a problem. The judicial system, the judiciary, by delaying justice, it has an impact on crime. When you know that you go to the courts and it will take you 3, 4, 5 years to get justice, you are going to take justice into your hands. All these are areas of security. The correctional institutions, how much are they correcting? When you go into prison, when you come out, are you a better citizen or are you, more hardened? The road network, police have to move on roads. And so when we look at everything, how is the security architecture for Nigeria being planned? A lot more people than the security agencies are players in providing security. And they all have to be synchronized and they all have to collaborate. I don't see enough of that going on. I see a lot of security agencies and other government agencies that have a role to play acting in silos and not realizing that everybody needs to be on the same table to address the issues of security. So if you ask me that, what should our government be doing? I think it is important that they start to appreciate the importance of everything, of connecting all the dots that concern security. Unemployment is critical, right? Planning, sit-down planning is critical. And a lot of what needs to be done should have been planned ahead. Look, where we are today didn't just start today. Like I said earlier, there was a lot of gap in planning from previous years. We are suffering the consequences of lack of planning now. And so the quicker we start to plan to address the issues, because the issues won't go away. The police, the security agencies are reacting to a situation. We need to do more about preventing those situations from happening. Otherwise, no matter how well you equip them, they are going to be overwhelmed. If everybody is looking for ways of survival outside the legal remit, more crimes will be committed. How much can you equip the security agencies to cope? I'm already fearing that with banditry in the northwest, insurgency in the northeast, secessionists in the southeast, kidnappers and cattle herders and all that going on, how much more can our security agencies cope? So we really need to start looking at understanding the root cause and putting in place what needs, and everybody is a player, not just the security agencies. We can't dump the lack of planlessness of our governments over the years on just the security agencies.
Mr. Deshayo, unemployment seems to be at the root of all this, and we can't say that that's going to go away soon.
Definitely.
And during the break, you were talking about all this going on in the country, which means that more people are going to flock into Lagos.
Definitely.
Because there's that belief that you get to Lagos, somehow you'll be able to find your way.
It's the oasis.
Yes. So what does Lagos State do about this specifically? And what do the hapless inhabitants of Lagos who are being attacked in traffic, are being attacked in the markets, who are being kidnapped, and you spoke about, during the break, about express kidnappings, what do we then do?
Okay, to start with, Nigerian law allows people to move. You can move to any part of Nigeria. But at the same time, no law gives you the power to go and to enter into a place when you don't have a right to live there, when you don't have accommodation. You can't just flock into Lagos, then occupy a space under the bridge, or occupy, an uncompleted building. Lagos State government has laws that takes care of this.
But it's not enforced.
It's not enforced. That was what I was saying before. We first of all need to start looking at enforcing law and order in Lagos State. That is one. Then two, we'll still have to come back to other parastatals or ministries that have responsibilities. Like, I want to see a situation whereby all the bridges up to Ojuelegba, I passed to Ojuelegba just 2 or 3 days ago. I was scared in the traffic there because I was just seeing all the strange faces. I was seeing that, these are potential criminals. Lagos State urban renewal, or they should start planting trees, turn under the bridges to part of the beautification of Lagos, and prevents that place from being turned into incubating center for crimes and criminals. Then thirdly, You see, when we joined the government security agencies, there are some things that we were taught, and we saw them being done then, which has to do with surveillance, which is as an aspect of, security enforcement, where you have people in plain clothes, you have unmanned vehicles, that they were using then, to monitor crimes and trying to. All these are gone. I know the Lagos State government has been putting so much funds through Lagos Security Trust Fund into RRS and other agencies. They need to actually look into the intelligence and surveillance aspect now, to now not buying brand new, Toyota or vehicles, but to buy vehicles that are fit for purpose, that can be, that can fit the right kind of cover. And I want to say, they have up to 5 to 8 vehicles driving from Lekki phase 1 roundabout all the way to Aja. All those unmarked vehicles like maybe Pencil Light, 2000 Toyota, and then you have policemen there. You see, our current strategy of putting RRS, they are doing a good job, but it will not help us, because the moment these criminals see these guys that they have occupied this area, they move away from that location on bike to another area where there are less police presence. So you continue seeing them, they'll continue to be carrying out these crimes. But when you now these guys, and then in the process of they carrying out this operation, you start picking them. By the time you call their population to have, the rest will run back out of Lagos.
There's something that you said now that I think, one should give a little more attention to, and that is talking about intelligence. Earlier you talked about you talked about credible intelligence. How actionable is that intelligence?
When intelligence is credible, it will be actionable.
Expectedly.
Yes.
Because we have had pockets of credible intelligence. I think it was, there was someone we engaged, I don't remember who, was a member of the House of Representatives, who is representing Kebbi State, and said that the hoodlums said they were going to come back twice. And they did come back. They came the first time, said they would be back, they came back, said they would be back the third time, they came back. So it is credible. Even if it's a rumor, okay, clearly it wasn't an empty boast. They came back. So it is credible. That's why I asked. Okay. What makes it credible? You see, what makes a credible information actionable?
Now, the fact that it is credible means that it is actionable. Now, do you have the capacity to action it? Maybe the issue. Okay. Now,
and whose job is it to action?
They're already overstretched. So those people saying that they will come back because they generally know that you don't have the capacity to stop them. Why? Because there are a lot of environmental, issues that are to their advantage. You are here in Birikebi, they move to another community and carry it out. As long as they strike, it's going to create embarrassment for you. Let me give you an example. 2 days ago, was it 2 days ago or yesterday, at around Shogunle, I saw the chairman of Lagos Task Force himself clearing traffic. The traffic was so much. And see, what I saw there is this. He saw the potential of these criminals, possibility of these criminals taking advantage of this traffic and start robbing people. Because they do rob people along that stretch, especially getting to under the bridge, Ikeja. So he himself was there. He was sweating under the sun, clearing this. Now, what I expect from others now is that the DPOs of each of these divisions, they know where and when their traffic used to build up in their areas. They know the time. I expect them to leave their office, call their DCOs and the DTOs, position yourself and start clearing. If you remove all the impediments that do create this traffic, you are reducing the opportunity for this crime, this crime to take place, or these criminals to, you see,
take advantage.
We're creating manure for crime.
Let me. There are one or two things that I would like us all to also touch on before we go. Now, you have talked, in response to Alero's question about what does Lagos need to do, but I'd like you, Mr. Bolarinwa, to talk about what do we need to do to cut down that influx that Mr. Adetayo talked about. What do other states need to do to forestall that propensity for the indigents of those states to leave that state en masse and create, quote unquote, create problems for other states?
So that's a very, very important question. Let me say this to you. The type of democracy and politics we practice in Nigeria is almost similar to the type of policing they practice in the US some times ago. That is, if a criminal is moving away from your precincts to other precincts, it's none of your problem, it is the problem of that precinct. So if you have a way of pushing your problem to other places, so be it. So I don't really, if I want to advise other states in Nigeria to make sure that they look after their citizens, provide job and other stuff, but the freedom of movement law that we have in Nigeria will not help that. They keep saying that anybody can go anywhere, and I've seen argument between the northern state government, eastern state government, and the Lagos state government over some funny deportation that was practiced by one-time Lagos state government. I think the onus lies in Lagos to make their environment, their domain, not to be livable and comfortable for people who does not have fixed abode. Lagos State currently, if you go around from Agege to Abattoir to Abule Egba to Agbado crossing where they share a boundary with Ogun State, in the night, which I have done, you see a lot of people actually sleeping on motorcycles, sleeping along the road to make a living and to also commit crimes. Why should people that does not have fixed abode be able to live comfortable in Lagos? And Lagos State needs to create a desk or a department for this to ensure that, one, people are registered as they are coming into Lagos. Whichever way they want to do it, they need to put something in place, which is not something that I can really share here. But for people of no fixed abode to be able to flock into your state and live there free of charge, it's not good for your economy, it's not good for security, it's not even good for control of disease, because I was concerned at the beginning of the COVID outbreak that while we are being told to maintain this, do that, to avoid being infected, people who are likely to be infected are actually practicing open defecation, urination, bathing, and sleeping on our roads. This needs to be done. It's part of the capacity building Lagos State needs to look into.
One moment. Before we go, let me ask Mr. Maboguje this same question. Because you're the one, Mr. Maboguje, who began by talking about unemployment. Now, if we look at NBS's figures, the National Bureau of Statistics figures about unemployment, it varies from state to state. And as Mr. Adetayo said, that's probably the basis upon which Alera asked the question about people flocking from where they are to another state, example, Lagos. So what then? I mean, we know the challenge of the states' governments with controlling the police administratively, so to speak. So, but they have powers, as you said, about unemployment. At least they should be able to do something about creating an enabling environment for employment and all of that. So, in terms of reducing influx of people into states that seem to be stable and all of that, what do the other states' governments need to do to forestall creating these problems, as we kind of, inferred the other time, for other state governments?
Look, you're asking me a very difficult question. If I had the answer, I'll be ruling Nigeria. But again, it all stems from lack of planning over the years. And the problem is a systemic failure. Let's understand that. It's a systemic failure. The other issue that comes from this is population control. For many years in the past, we've been talking of population. There's a maximum number that any economy can sustain, right? And that number needs to be tax-paying for that matter, right? When you have a country where only 6% of our population are paying tax, then we need to worry, really, really worry. Because if each state had its own tax administration and was efficient about collecting taxes, you will find out that a place like Lagos, which is attractive to a lot of people from other countries, because Lagos is attractive, it's the economic center of the country. You cannot stop people looking for a means of living from coming. But if you had in place a tax system that made sure that you pay for the services you are getting, then it might be a disincentive. But much more importantly, like my colleague said, is do we even know the numbers of people coming into Lagos? Are they registered anywhere? Do we know where they stay? Do we have a database that allows us to say, to profile the kind of people coming in, where they're staying, what kind of employment opportunities they have? How can Lagos State government do any planning without having that basic data? And who is going to get the data? Is it the population council that we don't have population, we don't have census as often as we're supposed to. So we don't even have the census figures to do the planning we need to do. Seriously, these are issues of planning, and it is systemic. We can go on and on trying to dissect the security situation, but it will all come to the system. We have to connect all the dots and see that security is actually as a consequence of poor governance and poor planning. And it won't go away until those two things are tackled clearly.
Thank you.
So
Mr.
I don't have any answers, but I think we should start with getting the data so that we can profile, so that we can plan, and putting in place effective tax system so that everybody in every state is paying something and therefore has must be employed to pay that tax.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mabogunje. I would have liked us to close with you all giving us, the people, little tips as to how we can keep ourselves secure, but we've run completely out of time. So I'd just like to thank our two security experts, Mr. Sheyi Adetayo, who was with us in our studio in Lagos, Mr. Olachubosun Abolarinwa, who joined us from our studio in Abuja, as well as the security engineer, Mr. Oluseun Mabogunje, who joined us virtually. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This conversation is by no means exhausted. It goes on. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. During the week, the World Bank, in its Nigeria Development Update, released a report that surging inflation is undermining the recovery of Africa's biggest economy. That is Nigeria.
Take it or leave it. Nigeria is still the biggest economy in Africa.
We're not arguing.
Well, even though sometimes we wonder.
Now, that, of course, that report also said it's pushed 7 million Nigerians into poverty and encouraging criminality. Increasing criminality, if I may add, as rising prices deplete already meager incomes. So, of course, the president, during his Democracy Day speech last week, said his administration has lifted 10.5 million Nigerians out of poverty, out of 100 million promised over the next 10 years. How has that happened? And how come what we have is what we have? Two gentlemen join us this morning to look at surging inflation and poverty. Johnson Chukwu is MD, Cowrie Asset Management Limited, as well as Tokpe Fashua, who is an economist. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us this morning.
Fashua is actually with us in Lagos.
Oh, yeah,
She hasn't been here in maybe about 2 years.
When you contest to be president, you want to be at the seat of power. So let me begin with you, Mr. Chukwu. First of all, those two figures, the World Bank's figures and the president's figures. How do both figures hit you?
When I look at those two figures, I could actually relate with where they are coming from. The president was very specific when he talked about lifting 10.5 million people out of poverty. He said they've created 2.5 million jobs through household peasant farming credit facilities, which the central bank has been granting, and that those 2.5 million households are employing 5 million people, 5% each. That's how he arrived at his about 10.5 million people that he felt had been lifted out of poverty. So what you basically do is that when you create employment or you create businesses that are creating jobs, then those jobs will pay salaries and wages to people who were employed. And if those people were previously unemployed and not earning income, certainly they, by virtue of earning income, may be able to escape the poverty line. That's what the president said. So I could relate with what he said. But that does not take away the fact that we are seeing increasing level of poverty in the country. Because if you look at what World Poverty Clock said, they say about 98 million Nigerians are now living in abject poverty. They are living below $1.9 per day, which is the minimum threshold for you to be averagely well off. So if you, like you said, that's almost 50% of the Nigerian population, because the population is about 206 million people. And if you recognize the fact that over the past 6 years, our economy has been structuring. We've seen 2 recessions. We've seen periods when we saw growth was below the population growth rate. So over time, because the economy is expanding at the rate lower than the rate at which the population is growing, the number of people who are going into poverty is increasing. And like World Bank said, it's worsened by the fact that our purchasing power is being eroded. You did mention that. So if today, if last year, you're in the same level of income, and last year you could buy a product for 100 naira, today you have to buy that product at 117 naira 93 kobo. So that means that unless your income has grown by 17.93%, your standard of living would have deteriorated, because you can no longer afford the same quantity of goods and services that you used to afford with that level of income. So what has happened is that those whose income have remained stagnant have seen their standard of living continuously eroded. And some of them have been pushed into poverty because as your income gets eroded, the ability to demand for goods and services get declined, and you may get to a point where you cannot even live standard. I mean, your standard of living will worsen to the point you become extremely poor.
Remember, Mr. Chukwu, don't forget that we are also in a pandemic, which means that many have lost their jobs, and those who still have their jobs are lucky to be paid what they were earning pre-pandemic. So people's salaries have also reduced.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's unfortunate for Nigerians because there are several people who have lost their job, like you correctly said. We are dealing with an unemployment rate of 3.3%, which means of the 116 million people who are in the labor force, 33.3% of them are not employed. They have nothing doing. It's not that they are, it's not where they are underemployed. We're talking of unemployed. So if you take an average of 100 million, you're saying more than 33 million of Nigerians do not know where the next meal will come from.
Okay, Mr. Fashua.
Sorry, Alera. I just want to, I don't know, it's not funny, but humor me, Mr. Chukwu. When you said the abject poverty is, according to the World Poverty Clock, and you are right, that is when the number of people who cannot spend up to $1.90 a day. That's almost $2. Mm-hmm. How much is $1 now?
Okay, $2, 1,000 naira.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fashua. How many people in Nigeria, from you are an economist, so you probably have figures you can hash.
I try.
Can have access to up to 500 naira a day?
Remember, well, okay, we are bringing up the issue of
what they call purchasing power parity in economics. Because a dollar here can go a long distance, a much longer distance compared with America.
Yeah.
You know, usually the concept of PPP is okay, but has also been flawed in many ways. People say you're comparing. You know, when they do the analysis, they say, oh, how much is a burger in New York? And a burger in New York, maybe $2, maybe $3. You know, so, but how much is a burger in Nigeria?
Lagos.
Okay, so if you want to buy a burger in Lagos, probably go to, well, I can't advertise for companies here, but those are the high-end people where you can go and buy one for 5,000 naira and so on. But people now say, look, you know.
One burger, 5,000 naira?
Well, I don't eat that more. I don't eat such things. I don't want to mention names. Now, there are places where you buy it like that in this country.
What?
So, but the issue then becomes, well, but is burger the staple food in Nigeria?
No.
So if people would wake up and eat akara and pap, cocoa, for example, or cocoa, whatever, you know, but they don't relate with that in America. So you find out that a Nigerian can live on
500
a whole lot less. And secondly, what that brings up also is that when you're talking about the number of people that are poor, they're talking about households as well. So if you say that you want to have $1.90 per person, that means that $1.90 including children. Now, then, however, what they do is to average it across the year, all right? So the father should be able to spend $1.90 on that child, including their education, every day for the whole year, 365 days. So that's
So it's not just about feeding.
Yeah, it's not just about feeding. So if the father cannot spend $1.90 per child for their education, for their needs, for their feeding, throughout the year, then you say, okay, this guy is below, the family as a whole is under the poverty line. But before now, you were mentioning quite a few things, you know, because what we find ourselves under is a multi-dimensional inflation. So everywhere that inflation can come, it's coming into Nigeria. It's coming from the supply side. You know, companies last year were shut down. Bringing in raw materials and technology and equipment from abroad to produce became a problem. It became a lot more expensive. Naira has been devalued about 35 to 40% or thereabouts, at least from 305 to 410 now, officially. And of course, on the streets, for most producers, most importers, most traders have to go to the streets to buy. Luckily, ahead has gone back to about 483. It passed 500 about a week ago. You know, so that means that the fact that Naira is now devalued, then you import inflation because the country is still an import-dependent economy. You know, surprisingly, our import grew by 54% last year in spite of the snafu in trade, in international trade, in spite of course, they said shipping wasn't quite affected, but there was a time that even the Nigerian ports had to kind of, you know, shrink its operations massively. So you are importing inflation by way of devaluation. If there's inflation in the countries that you are importing from, you bring back that inflation. Supply side snafus, the fact that companies cannot produce and companies have to increase their prices in order to compensate for the shutdowns that they had and all the challenges they have, you know, that also takes inflation in. Then what the president has said, the interventions as a result of the neo-Keynesianism that we're now practicing around the world, a kind of neo-Keynesianism whereby, you know, governments are spending money, intervening, sending money to people, which is true. So the president does have a point that they've spent quite a bit of money through AXMEs, giving to people, through anchor borrowers, through all sorts of intervention. Money is being pushed out. But you see, when money is pushed out in that way, and people just suddenly find that they have money, and, you know, where do they spend, and everything they're buying, you know. So the few people who are producing also increase their prices. So you can see that inflation is coming at us from several angles, whether on the demand side, on the supply side, on the import side, on the devaluation side.
Essentially, you're saying, Mr. Fashua, that the figures are not matching the reality of the people.
Well, not exactly. I'm saying that you know, what we have established here is actually what they call complexity economics.
If you can just break it down, help my,
yes, okay.
just 1 second.
Right,
okay, so let me make it a clear question. Do the figures match the reality of Nigeria?
The figures actually almost match it, okay? There'll be plus or minus, okay? But we have established some facts here, okay? The fact that indeed government spent money. That releases money into the society. But what is that money buying? So you see money chasing fewer production, and we have also established that companies were finding it difficult to produce, and the little they produce, they increase the prices. Ordinary pure water in some places is now 29.
Just to stay, Mr. Johnson, do the figures match the reality? As both as a Nigerian and as MD of a company?
As an economist.
Okay, let me get your question right. When you talk of do the figures match the reality, you are saying that the job that the government has created, is it reflecting in the society? The
figures that government is bandying.
Yes. Do
they match what the experience that people are having on the streets?
When we talk of, that's why I say that if you are talking about the job that government said they've created, is it reflecting in the public? Is it reflecting in the society? Can the economy feel it? That's your question. Okay, and my take is this. If you have to recognize the fact that, look, if you create 10.5 million jobs and addition 30 million people go out of jobs, it doesn't take away the fact that you created 10.5 million jobs, but you have a net deficit of 20 million jobs.
Just the same way the inflation figures and the population figures are not at par.
Yes, I'll come back to that. So what we are looking at that, in as much as government may have created specific jobs. If I wasn't working yesterday and I get a job today, the government can say, Johnson Chukwu has started working. Okay? True. But it could also follow that Sister Lero, Ayo, yourself, and Shola have lost their jobs. So of the 4 of us, Johnson is working, but 3 persons have lost their jobs. In effect, the economy is suffering from 3% loss of 3 person against 1 person. So in effect, we have a deficit of 3. That's exactly what we're dealing with today. The economy is growing at a very slow rate. A couple of factors, including exogenous, external factors, and endogenous factors, internal factors, are pushing a lot of people out of jobs, creating high level of unemployment. So if you create specific jobs in some sectors, but the number of people who are who have lost their job within that period are more than those who have gotten jobs, yes, then the economy is suffering from a deficit of job creation. And that is why you cannot see it at the macro level. At the micro level, the individual that have gotten a job will be dancing around, I've gotten a job.
So
but the public cannot see it because we're seeing despair, loss of jobs, loss of income, increasing level of poverty, increasing level of unemployment.
Yeah. Talking about the increasing level of poverty, we were talking about government giving out, the anchor borrowers and this and that and all that. But what are the people spending that money on? I heard something that shocked me yesterday, that in the markets, yam is actually being sold in slices.
Yeah.
Because people can't afford to buy a tuber of yam.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that happen in this country before. That shows you the level of poverty of the people.
Yeah.
When they cannot buy 1 tuber of yam, they cannot buy a paint bucket of gari because it is now 1,700 naira.
That's the inflation.
What they used to buy for 800. So what is this money that government is giving out doing to the persons who are receiving it? How is it improving their lives?
Well, I think, like Johnson has said, you know, if you intervene with 10.5 million people, and 33 million or 40 million people have lost their job, you still have a huge deficit. And the point is
you haven't done anything.
The 10 million people that you have intervened with probably will be able to assist to an extent informally, because that's what we call social capital in Nigeria. Maybe they'll reach out to 15 million people here and there, which may not be captured by the data that they've actually given out money to these people. That may not be captured in the data as to who and who they are assisting. But what we have here is stagflation. Stagflation. That's a stagnant economy and hyperinflation on the other side. What then means that, you see, that maybe if the bottom 10 million that are not being reached, and that's a lot of numbers, the bottom 10, 15, 20 million that are not being reached at all, okay, maybe deep down there in the villages or somewhere, or even urban poverty is even worse. The bottom 10, 20, 15 million that are not being reached at all have now, their fate is now a lot worse. Imagine if you had nothing, fine. And so you probably ask, if somebody has zero, how can inflation affect them, all right? But if somebody had 100 naira and 18% inflation, almost 18%, what it means is that, technically speaking, it's as good as 82 naira.
You just reminded me of a Yoruba proverb that I don't want to say in public. Because I don't want to. But we'll take a break and we'll continue this conversation right now. Well, thanks for staying with us. Gentlemen, there is something that we have heard over and over again. The problem is big. The issues are out there and the figures, as you economists tell us, don't lie. But there is also something that we've heard over and over again, and that's the fact that the private sector has a crucial role to play in solving all of these problems, especially the unemployment problem, at least to a large extent. So let me ask you, what are the challenges that you know are clear and present for the private sector to even be enabled to create jobs or to employ people, to take up some of those unemployment challenge that the problem has? Because clearly the federal government or the state governments can't employ everybody. Yeah. So what are those challenges mitigating?
Okay, I'm going to add to your preamble before I go to the challenges. And that is, there is a private sector that will create employment and reduce the level of unemployment, reduce the level of poverty. And some countries have done it well. And one of the things I have always emphasized, we should move away from relief-focused poverty alleviation to development-focused poverty reduction. Relief-focused poverty alleviation is where you think you give handouts. I'll give a child 1 meal in a day, but the child left home in the morning, he didn't eat in the morning. He won't eat in the afternoon, in the evening. His father cannot pay rent. He can't buy clothing for him. The mother has not eaten. So if you are granting relief and you think you will take people out of poverty, which has never happened anywhere in the world. China changed their own approach in 1982, and that led to immediate transformation of China. So we need to focus on development. And that takes us to your question. What do we need to encourage the private sector to be very strong in the economy and create jobs? One is policy environment. And it has to come from the fiscal authorities. Policy environment as it relates to what is a policy. Let's even start from the elephant in the China issue of insecurity. People have investments. Outside Lagos is the only oasis we have today. Outside Lagos and Abuja, you can't go to so many states in the country. So you have to deal with that. It has to come from fiscal policies of the government, from the executive arm of the government. Second issue.
Government being federal or state?
At the federal level, the issue of insecurity has to be dealt at the federal level. The states have minimal impact on when it comes to the level of pervasive insecurity we have in the country today. Second issue is the issue infrastructure supply. Take the issue of transport infrastructure, logistic infrastructure, including the seaports. Then you look at energy infrastructure, power supply. These are three critical elements you need to address if you have to encourage private sector to operate. A couple of countries have done it well. When we talk of China, I'm not going to talk about China. I'm just going to talk of a country like these other Southeast Asian countries that have done so well within a period that we started our own reforms. So we need to address infrastructure. Two is our legal system. I mean, the third factor is our legal system. Contract enforcement. Time it takes to, then you have to talk of the regulatory environment, bureaucracy, time it takes to register title, time it takes to incorporate a business, time it takes to get permits.
Essentially talking about ease of doing business?
Yes, ease of doing business.
But we have been talking about that, Johnson, and we have said that we have made that better. The vice president was the great champion of that in this government.
Okay, let me come in, Sister Larry. At some point, we were moving on the ease of doing business. Mm. After the first term of the current government, we froze. And some of the milestones we achieved in the first term, including improving the time it takes you to get visa, visa on arrival. Maybe I forgot it. Can you remind me of any new policy that has come up in the past 2 years that are focused on addressing the ease of doing business.
But what we understand, my apologies, Mr. Chubu, what we understand, Mr. Fashua, is that the Office of the Vice President, PEBEC, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Committee or Council, had just two states. They worked with the World Bank, to try to facilitate ease of doing business in at least 2 sample states, hoping that that could be replicated in other states. What do you think forestalled that?
Well, great stuff. You know, my school of thought in economics is a bit left of center, I must say, and I also know that sometimes late last year, the World Bank itself slowed down on the ease of doing business index as well, and felt that, look, they had been going on and on. It wasn't quite measuring the things that needed to be measured. You know, just focusing on ease of doing business does not actually move the development needle as well. You know, the kind of things that there are 10 indices in there, and some of them are a little bit tangential. Okay, for example, cross-border trade, ease of paying taxes, and so on, which, in fact, I had written articles in the past saying that, look, perhaps we need to tweak this ourselves. It may not be a big deal registering a company, but when you register that company as a young man, but through politics and corruption, you can't get a single job with that nice company that you have incorporated. So what's the point? So, but how are we addressing the politics, the corruption, the frustrations, the double taxations, you know, the harassment, and the fact that there's no, like he said, the infrastructure backup and what they call the enabling environment in Nigeria. So I belong to a certain school of thought, which is, well, my own idea, that what we need right now is that we haven't provided the foundation for business in this country, okay, which is what they call the public goods in economics. So without security, you can't do any business. Look at how large Nigeria is. Take a flight in Nigeria in a propeller engine plane, and you look at the lay of the land. We're not occupying 10% of the landmass. We're not farming 20% of the landmass. So I say, if you fold up Nigeria today and say, sorry, we can't do it anymore, back to sender, it's going to be the epitaph is going to be labeled returned on open, because we never actually worked the potentials of this country per se. Oh, no, you know what I'm saying? So the basic issues is what they got right in the West, and even in Southeast Asia and other places. You can't fix security, nothing is going to happen. How do you then fix security? Of course, you can look at technology, but you can also look at people. So you have to, and so whereas the private sector can provide the employment for people, but what we haven't done is that we haven't actually populated the core sectors, we haven't manned the core sectors in the public sector with the people, and we cannot now go and import technology to supervise everybody when everybody is going hungry.
So it's not a problem. It's not a problem of policy.
It is a policy problem. In fact, it is solely a policy problem.
But you talked about people. Just a second.
Yes, okay.
You talked about people. So if we have policies, amazing, fantastic, excellent policies without the right people.
Yeah. No, the people are there. Look, 200 million people. The people that will fix this country are here. The young people are looking for jobs. Youth unemployment is 42%. 42%. We're not talking about the core unemployment, general employment 33.3%, youth unemployment 42%, underemployment is 22.8%. So if you look at the youth alone, in that bracket, you're looking at about 60-something percent of unemployment and underemployment, the young people of this country walking about the place. I'm talking about security. Talk about the environmental sector. Give a German this country, give the Europeans, give the Americans, give the Chinese this country, and they'll probably transform it in 3 years. All right, so we're talking about the environmental sector, the security sector, the educational sector. You have 15 million children on the street. That none of us should be able to sleep. Because not only have we messed it up till now, it looks that even the future is totally jeopardized.
Okay.
So how do you take care of 15 million people? You need 2 things. Sorry, Ayo, just 1 second. 2 things. Number 1, you need to put those children in school. That means you need to expand education. That means you need teachers. A lot of the young people that are being pushed into entrepreneurship, they just go and sell anything you can sell. Entrepreneurship should be based on innovation, not survival. So we're going into entrepreneurship just to survive. Many of them should be teachers earning 40,000, 50,000 in Mina, in somewhere and doing something and adding value until they move on. And secondly, the United States has 680,000 social workers. Okay, these are social workers that are put in charge of 7, 8 young people. You foster care in different things, taking children off the streets, putting them in families. You open a file for them, you go to visit them, make sure that they are okay, they are attending school, they are eating well, they are getting their medicals done and all that. 15 million is, you probably need a brand new social services sector. So now, if you don't do social services, you don't do education, you don't do security, you don't do environment, and then you say that
Mr. Fasha,
private
just
sector,
1 second.
and so you have to put money in people's pockets, actually.
Now, Mr. Chukwu, you said something the other time, and I think it is quite instructive, and perhaps it's a good way to go for the whole nation. You talked about survival, existential or survival, economy versus developmental economy. And it's a function of planning. You mentioned that earlier. So this is 2021. We started talking about the Fourth Republic in 1999. This is 2021, 22 years after. If you were to project another 20 or 22 years from now, talking about the development that you mentioned earlier, what are the critical things we need to do, as well as a timeline with which we need to do them so that we do not find ourselves in a much worse situation than we are now?
Okay, I will start from the next generation of Nigerians. I had a meeting at some point when Ellen Sheriff was the president of Liberia. And she mentioned at that meeting that they lost a generation as a country. Nigeria is close to that situation where we can say we have lost a generation of young Nigerians. So what I would do is I'll go backward to make sure we don't lose another generation. I will start with the educational system. I will review the curriculum and introduce current educational curriculum, which is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we're going to start it from the nursery stage level up to secondary and university level. So we're going to build a generation of Nigerians that in the next, remember what happens, that if you have quality education, it begins to manifest after 10 years. Because that's when the graduates, they would have coming out of high school and they will be coming with skills. So that's the first focus. Get it right, catch them wrong, and get it right with the educational system. Second issue will be the infrastructural build-up. We need to build the infrastructure that will support development, that will support productivity.
Such as, to be specific?
Transport infrastructure is very critical. Energy infrastructure is very critical. Logistic infrastructure is very critical. When I talk of logistic infrastructure, is that one of the things that China did was it focused on the western zones of its country and where they have seaports. And they built world-class seaports so that they could produce and export. And that attracted investors from outside China to come and invest in setting up manufacturing outfits. It's not just they were looking for population of China. The first set of companies that came to China and wanted to build in China and export out of China. We don't have the logistics for export. Tokbe had mentioned the issue of logistic bottleneck we have at the seaports. You come in, bring Nigeria goods into the country, it takes you almost as long as it takes you to ship it from Antwerp to Nigeria, to take it out from Papa Port to your warehouse. We don't even have export terminals, so we need to address that.
Okay.
And then power infrastructure. We started the Power Reform Act process. It's almost more than 10 years we've done that, and we've not seen improvement in power supply. We need to go back and look at that model and see if it's working, and probably tweak it to make it work. If you don't have energy, let me tell you, Ayo, everything on earth runs on energy, be it living or inanimate objects. The AC here is working on energy. You and I are running on energy because without energy, nothing functions. So if we don't get the energy right, we're not going to ever be a productive economy. I mentioned education. Then the next fourth aspect will be on healthcare. If you address education, infrastructure, healthcare, security, then you get this economy working.
And I talk, when he was talking now, something just crossed my mind that many manufacturers moved to China after China had fixed itself up.
Yeah.
Because of the availability of cheap labor.
Absolutely.
You could say that you can find cheap labor in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So what is preventing us from putting other things into place so that manufacturers can also come and manufacture and ship out from here?
Well, okay, well, it's a very intricate game. It's not as easy as, China, of the very smart people, and I mean, we're talking of civilizations that used to have been around for 5,000 years or so. A lot of the technology that the West capitalized on in the first industrial revolution were actually taken from the East as well. There's what's called the East-West pendulum, by which the economic power shifts from the Eastern hemisphere to the Western and back and so on. And so they were able to position to gain from globalization when the Americans and the Europeans felt that the heavy lifting of manufacturing should be outsourced to countries that can, But of course, these days too, we have seen an uptick in wages in China. And now under Trump, for example, he was always saying, look, we need to take these jobs back, for our people, because it seemed like they had left a whole lot of people, in the base, they had left them to their own fate, even in America, So we have the numbers. But we haven't actually given as much training and orientation to our numbers as the Chinese did. That made it easy for even technology companies to move to China and be able to produce there, because you had to have got their minds into a certain framework. They work like machines for almost next to nothing. At the beginning, it was 1/20th of the wages that were being paid in the West was what the companies were paying in the East. Later, it became 1/10. Now it's looking a bit dicey. So those companies are trying to move back. So that's what Mr. Johnson said. In education. Look, the biggest investment we can make in terms of return on investment in this country is the education of our children. 10 years of, it takes a lot of investment. So the issue then becomes a balance. If the governors want to be able to put 2 billion naira worth of cars on the streets and run around in convoys and build, every time you look at the achievement, they say, oh, we just built a fantastic governor's lodge. A wonderful presidential lodge, which nobody lives in. So it's a choice. Otherwise, you find out that it's a big investment you have to make and sacrifice you have to make to say, let me shut my eyes to my own convenience and my own safety. Let's take these children of the city. Let's even in the south of Nigeria, we could do a whole lot more in terms of educating our children. You mentioned STEM, for example. Of education, very, very important.
In terms of education, I would ask you, because I think you run a business, you run a business as well. Every business would have a focus.
Right.
Has a vision of, okay, this is what this organization, is going to achieve. So even if we say pump money into education, into healthcare and all those things, what is the focus? What is the end game? What's the Nigerian vision? That which this spending is going to provide or produce for Nigeria in 10 years.
Is the mind you're investing in. 10 years. 10 years of transforming the mindset. Look,
transforming the mindset to what end?
Just a second. An uneducated mind, certainly just not deliver as much to society as it should. So if you gave me a toddler today, and you ensure that toddler begins to go to school, in 10 years begins to think in a different manner. That was what China did. That was what America, Europe, that was what they did. Thinking in a different mind. That, look, the problem we have now, especially in some parts of the country, is some people believe there is a class system. And so we need people to be alaru in the market. All right? Yes, that's it. We need people to be shoemakers. We need people to be mebola. We need people to be a merua and co. And so
So you think it's planned?
But you don't understand that you would be able to create systems and technology that would deliver the water, take your refuse, and do all of that. But that child should be a prodigy in some area in technology or whatever, even in the arts, to think for the people and cooperate. I would go with the STEM idea, but if I had my way, I will ensure every child studies history in this country and every child studies sociology to understand different cultures and diversity in this country from get-go. I tell you what, so it's an investment that our leaders are, unready. They're not ready to make that investment because it's a case of paying billions and billions every month, billions and trillions every year. But in time, you'll be shocked how this country will transform. That's the best investment you can make. And once you do that, the money people, these rich guys, we have people in this country with good money. They will move in on the infrastructure. If even the diaspora will invest in infrastructure bond, this country will transform. But again, you see that many of the infrastructure we're doing, we leave it to Chinese. They will bring the people that will do it. They'll bring the laborers that will do the work. They'll bring the equipment. They'll bring everything and say, oh, yeah, great stuff. We're starting there. But we must begin to include our children, our youth, our young people, and then the finance will come and they would have ownership of the development of this country.
This is really, really interesting, and I just hope someone was taking notes so that we can come up with the policy. Why are you looking at me like that? But I have to thank you. I have to thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. Tope Fashua, an economist, as well as Johnson Chukwu, who is MD Cowrie Asset Management Limited. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
So we continue after this break. To stay with us.
No, not you. Sorry about that. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be looking now at regulating the social media. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, stated in the course of the week that there was a need for the country to regulate the social media. Well, there had been talk in this direction, and 2-3 weeks ago, when a particular microblogging entity was banned, people began to read meanings and to, well, say that this was the direction government was going to. So when the minister said this in the course of this week, people said, aha, we said so, we said so. So what will be the import of regulating social media in this country? We have two gentlemen who are going to help us analyze this. We have the CEO of Wave 5 Wireless, Mr. Ayowande Adalimo. Good morning.
It's a pleasure being here. Good
And
morning.
we also have a brand communications expert, Mr. Adeola Kayode. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming, both of you.
It's a pleasure to be here, ma'am.
Thank you.
Let me begin with you, sir. What would be the import of regulating social media the way that our government is looking at it right now?
I think I like the way you put that question, the way our government is looking at it right now. Because that exactly embodies the entire issue around regulating social media. So there are two constructs. There's a construct of control, which goes with the brick and mortar system of doing things. Then there's the other construct of a decentralized system and the sharing economy. Now, anyone within the construct of the brick and mortar control system cannot understand the decentralized sharing economy. So what do I mean? We hear buzzwords like artificial intelligence, we hear buzzwords like machine learning, blockchain, decentralized finance, and all of those things. They are constructs of the sharing economy. The ride-hailing that we take. All these constructs are a completely different construct from the control brick-and-mortar system. So you have a bank. You must go to work because you must be controlled. That has changed with the fintech industry. You don't have to be in a bank.
And the pandemic also emphasized that.
So when you want to regulate social media, whoever says that is coming from the control construct. That's what they understand. And that's why I like that question, because it's a question of who is thinking about this and why. It's a function of the mindset. And let me use the word that I feel a bit of pity for those who are in governance and who do not understand the other side of the chasm, because it's a chasm. If anyone in government understands the decentralized nature of things and the sharing economy, they would not seek to regulate, they would seek to understand. So one of the microblogging sites deleted the president's tweet. Okay, that's bad enough. And the microblogging site did not delete the tweet of someone else that they felt was. So if I was an advisor to the president, the next move is not to suspend that microblogging site. The next move is to, I have 3.5 million Nigerians on that. That's an army of 3.5 million people. So it's a social construct. It's a thing of planting ideas in their mind. Because people reported that tweet. And some influencers started the campaign of reporting the tweet to the president, and their followers followed in tweeting, right? So what is the National Orientation Agency doing with that kind of platform? Where you have 3.5 million Nigerians. Let's not forget that 15.1 million Nigerians voted for the president. That means that about 1/5 of that number are on Twitter. If I can convince 10% of them to begin to think, oh, that statement was taken out of context. This is exactly what we mean, and this is what we're going to do. What will happen is that 10% of them will say, okay, the president has said something. Oh, you guys are wrong. It begins, and because it goes viral, it begins to create a counter-argument. Then you find one or two influencers who just puts in the word and says, oh, I think we should listen to the president now. It kills whatever antagonism has come up initially. So instead of regulation, you must understand that you're in a sharing economy now. Unfortunately, those who do regulations for us are in the control economy that has been there from the 19th century, the 20th century. They don't understand the industrial revolution that is happening. And someone said on the platform the other day that there are two Nigerias. There's Niger and there's Nigeria. And that is very true.
Which one is Niger?
So Nigeria consists of entrepreneurs, ideas, startups, people building things and moving with this decentralized economy.
That's Niger.
That's Niger.
Okay.
Nigeria sits in the control, don't talk, don't sit, don't stand sort of things.
We clearly need a new constitution to accommodate these two people. But let me ask you, do you see a generational clash here?
Clearly, that is what is happening. So if you look all across the world, everyone is looking to Nigeria. Great potential. Yeah. This is a Ferrari, but you're parking it in the garage. You know, where you have an immense amount of youths that represents, I think about 60% of the population is below 30 years old. That's a huge army. That's a huge potential. And you know, there's this study that was done, and they talked about Afro-optimism, that there's a huge optimism rising in Africa, but then that optimism, they could not link it to the infrastructure because our infrastructure is poor. They could not link it to governance because that is poor as well. What they linked it to was the power of the youth linked to technology, that the confluence of mobile, social and digital technologies is changing things. So the typical problems, you know, that one generation has seen and said, oh, these are problems, banking, you have to get a tally number. Some are turning it into possibilities, you know, and that's because of these tools. However, you know, the Nigeria I mentioned about, the challenge is that the control of the system of how things run is actually with one generation, but the potential and the future is with another generation.
Is that also saying? Is that also saying that? Let me ask you, Mr. Wande, I don't know. Is that also saying that this fact is lost on the Nigerians? Is that? Are you by any chance saying that maybe the authorities are not aware of this, you know, fact that Mr. Kade has spoken about? Consequently, unable to take advantage of it or maximize it?
So there's a lot of intelligence that comes to play in understanding that certain constructs are beyond you and you need help. Sadly, we see less and less of that intelligence in governance, less and less of that intelligence in public service.
That's not to say that there aren't young people in government.
Yes, so the challenge we have is that there has not been a deliberateness to public innovation over the years. Our civil service is over-bloated. I disagree completely. Our civil service is not innovative. And if you look at certain states that are making some strides, not appreciable strides, I will love it, you will realize that the governors or the leaders in those states, Lagos as an example, made deliberate efforts to bring some sort of innovation to the civil service and turn it into an engine as against people just sitting at work and passing files around. So they know what it is, but it's a function of my pocket versus my development. How many governors will sit? How many SSAs have the power to tell the governor, Mr. Governor, this is not right? I'll give you a typical example. Some time ago, there was this rumor flying around that the Lagos State government wanted to start collecting taxes on content created in Lagos State. And quite a number of us in the industry were like, okay, what's going on? And I spoke to quite a number of my friends, and they said, one day, calm down, let's see if this is true. And then one of our entrepreneurs, a notable entrepreneur in the content industry, showcased a letter from that agency. And I tweeted at the governor, and I said, I made a point. So if this content that says that they will shut down the company happens, so you move your task force, they control economy, you move your task force, you shut down the office, you seal it. This man does not need an office to create content.
Thank you.
So what will happen? The next day, the executive secretary was sacked. So they're listening. They're seeing. But how many of them will take that intelligent move to say, we need to move this country forward? Very few of them will do that. And that's a challenge we have.
Yeah, Dale. I am sure that government is not unaware of the number of young people.
A significant number.
You said 60 million. 60 million
60%
is more than enough to win an election.
is enough. It's enough.
So I am sure that government is aware of that. And government intends to use that in the next election, if it didn't in the last, after seeing what happened with NSAS and how the whole nation was mobilized. Nobody traveled from point A to point B to go mobilize anybody. Everything was done on the devices. So I am sure they are now aware that elections can be won and lost by this. So I am sure also that they are preparing to use that in the next election. What do you think?
So for me, I think they are aware. But the real question as a student and master in the School of Strategy is that every time they do this, you ask, so what is the nature of the problem we are trying to solve? Because if we are thinking short term, then we are trying to regulate. Because what happens to all of us is that what are we trying to achieve in the long term? You know, in trying to create that system, what are we trying to achieve? If we don't think about the long-term things, then we have a lot of tactics, stop this, remove this, without a coordination of those individual actions towards a common policy. So what are we actually trying to achieve with communications in Nigeria? With the youths, what future or what vision do we have that all our coordination or coordinated action is to empower them and guide them like a laser beam to achieve what this government wants to do? We want to empower and lift people out of poverty. What exactly are the policies? If we keep quiet and the only time we are hearing things are when we try to limit extent, then we are actually making a terrible use of the weapon of the system we have in place. So they are aware. So I think number one is first of all understanding the nature of the problem they are trying to solve. Number two is actually to define where they're actually taking everybody to. Because what is happening to a large extent in the sharing economy is that we look at problems and we ask ourselves, how can I solve this problem? So when I solve that problem, and then you now come back with a regulation on how I should solve the problem. No, you should have guided how I should have solved this problem in the first instance. So if we begin to look at that this is where the government is saying it wants to reach, that in the next 3 years, this is where who we want to become. For the youth, this is what it translates to. For us as a government, this is how we are going to be guiding. And government is doing that every day. We don't need so much money to be able to do everything we want to do. We need to just implement the things that are important.
Do you even see, because perhaps the challenge here has been that of engagement. Because what you are talking about here now would be along the line of engaging this population that you're talking about. So in terms of engaging the young people, Mr. Dalemo, how do you think, how should we not be doing it, and what would you recommend?
So we should not be doing it the way we're doing it now. And I agree with Coyote. There needs to be a strategy behind engagement. You can't just say, I want to engage the youth, call a town hall meeting, fill it with youth, and then talk to them. There must be a strategy. And like you said, what is the goal of engaging the youth? What am I going to achieve? Is the goal, I always ask the question when I meet people in governance, and I ask them, what platform do you want to present Nigeria as? The United States is known as the military platform of the world. Mexico says they want to become the logistics platform of the world. Brazil is saying they want to become the health platform of the world. The United Arab Emirates is saying we are the tourism capital of the world. If we understand the platform that Nigeria wants to become, then you can begin to engage the youth based on the strategies of this platform.
So perhaps the first thing you're talking about is we need to have a vision.
We need to have a vision.
Oh dear. We'll be back. So we're back. Why? So the challenge, the number one challenge is vision.
The vision, yes.
So in terms of potential, the topic we're talking about is regulating social media.
Yes.
Now, in terms of casting a vision and executing or working towards that vision, in the light of this conundrum of regulating the social media, what's our shortcoming and what should we be doing?
I think our number one shortcoming is seeing social media as a threat. That's the number one shortcoming.
But do you agree also that the challenge of fake news, one of the things that the federal government is talking about, for which reason the social media is being proposed a regulation around, is a problem? Fake news, you know, hate speeches and all those things?
I agree that it's a problem. But that's why we have an agency called the National Orientation Agency. What is their role? Why do we have people who are paying every single month and we're talking about... So it worries me a lot when we throw these defensive things at solving problem. Close the border because of insecurity. So what is the role of people who are playing, who are in security, manage security? What is the role of the customs? Why shut the border? So what we see is that our inefficiency is modeled up, thrown into the dustbin, and then we come up with the Voltron to say, is that inefficiency is because of this thing. Meanwhile, you're not addressing the inefficiency. It's a lazy approach to solving systemic problems. So if there's fake news, we have broadcasters in this country who are licensed. We have a national orientation agency. We have newspapers. We have journalists in this country who are recognized. Then there's social media. That is where we say there's a purview of fake news. So the National Orientation Agency's job is to ensure that Nigerians are oriented to identify fake news. Because, see, shut down every single social media, from the microblogging sites to the instant messaging sites today. Fake news will continue to propagate itself. It will continue to be in small group discussions in streets, in villages. People will continue to say things that are not true. Who counters that narrative? And who allows that narrative to run for such a long time that it now becomes the truth? Inverted comma, open and close. Do we have a minister of culture in this country? Because this is a culture.
Well, we have him. You know, we have a minister of information and culture.
Oh, we do. Okay. So the role of the Minister for Information and Culture is to understand what is the culture of our young Nigerians. And you will understand this problem where someone wears a dreadlock, right? I am 44. I was raised to think that dreadlocks are things that are anatomic to normal. But now, I work with people who have dreadlocks in my office. It is normal. But a lot of my colleagues will come and say, why do you have a dreadlock? And I have to educate them. Now, if I have to do that in my own small space, what is the National Orientation Agency under the Ministry of Information and Culture doing? Culture is not just having Eyo and Egungun masquerades dancing at every celebration or festival. It is understanding the evolving culture of our different tribes and how we can interact.
Okay. So, Mr. Kade, you began by saying we have a challenge of generational clash. How do we build this? A lot of it is going to be achieved through communication. And it would seem like we haven't even started to communicate. We have only been talking. And we both agree that there are two different things. So how should these two generations communicate? Let me be clear. Communication means shared meaning. I understand what you are saying the way you intend for me to understand it. So how should these two generations be talking?
I think I first will start by saying that the biggest counter or the fastest way to actually deal with fake news is actually to place, it's actually facts. It's actually to lead with facts. It's actually to set an agenda. Because in the absence of a clear agenda, focus on a direction, then you leave side conversations to gain a lot of traction. So if I set the agenda, and I work with a lot of brands who essentially are having to engage this same target audience all across the time, they say what they mean what they say. When they are aggrieved, they will say it. And what brands have then begun to do is to listen. Listen, engage. You will learn a lot more by listening to this and then build traction with that. So I first would say lead with an agenda. What is the agenda? And then how can we drive this through participation? You know, these people want to talk. They want to engage. They want to be part of the process. Can you own the process and lead the charge? You know, they actually even don't, and if you realize, it's not, they really want to, they just want to live a better life. They want a fighting chance at succeeding. You know, so largely, when we are starting this lead with agenda, lead with facts, set an agenda and find the individual clusters. And you find out that in every industry, there's another industry rising up that is powered and driven by technology with little participation, and less regulation. They're looking at the existing laws that stifled individual industry, and we find it everywhere, in technology, in healthcare. They're looking at the existing laws. We cannot solve the same problem. You cannot solve a problem at the same level it was created. These guys are coming up with different approaches to look at this thing. Can we listen to them and then let them drive the process? You own the terrain. It's almost as if we create a grass and then come and farm within those spaces. In that kind of terrain, we will become a lot more powerful. As a matter of fact, you, who is the government, now own the agenda. You set the agenda, but then you give them the chance and the room to thrive on it. So that's the way I look at it. There's much more in terms of participation.
How long is this going to take?
No. It's not. It's actually very short. It's just a shift in mindset.
Whose mindset?
Both from the youths who essentially
Nigeria's mindset.
No, from both sides. No, from both sides. From both sides. For both the Nigerian in quotes who age long challenges and then they've become a bit comfortable. You know, these are the problems we can solve. These are the ones we cannot solve. They need to step back a bit and listen. And then the individuals, you know, there's a reason why they say that you should yoke a young cow with an older cow. You leverage the experience of the older cow and the energy of the younger cow. And if you go into, those who are into farming will explain that. So that's the kind of process we are looking at.
Getting this old cow and the young cow in the same room in Nigeria today, you and I know how that conversation is even going to begin in the first place. Because, I mean, let's decrypt it. You know, Mr. Adelema said the other time, let's decrypt it down to the, you know, to brass tacks. Even in communities, at the lower level and the communities, getting an older person and a younger person to sit in the same room and see the same thing the same way, now plenty work. So how do we, that's why I'm talking about the communication bit of the whole conversation.
First of all, Ayo, the young man cannot even speak in front of elders. Our culture prevents him from doing that.
Exactly.
He will only speak when he is asked to speak.
Consequent upon which Mr. Dalima was talking about. So I want him to try. You are a brand communication person.
Yes.
So the brand
Nigeria.
Okay, I don't know. I'm afraid to say brand Nigeria because of what he said about Nigeria the other time. So, but the brand Nigeria entity, where both the Nigerian and the Niger people are, what kind of communication should the actors be having? How should who communicate with who in a way that they can both come to an agreement? You said it's short term. I want to hear how.
So look at it this way. First, there has to be a change of thinking from both sides, which I've explained in a bit. And then what is the agenda that the brand or the people who own the control system want to achieve?
With Nigeria.
With Nigeria has. And then we will come and then create a participation platform where you will hear the kind of opportunities and the kind of approaches that these young people have developed. Because the real challenge we have is that the people who own the control system are afraid of irrelevance. You know, so if you are thinking that in the new system you become irrelevant, then you stay within the space where you know you are powerful and remain relevant without. But you see, whether we like it or not, times are changing. The entire world is already thinking, oh, okay, please, when Nigeria is ready, they join us. So everybody is moving on. Okay. So for relevance for these individuals as well, you need to, and the young guys need to show how they still remain relevant in the future that Nigeria is going to, and leverage their experience. Because young people as well don't have that way long experience, they probably tell you. So we need to find that balance in experience and then the strength and opportunities they have so that we can create a system. Because ultimately, the Nigeria that is powerful, vibrant, will still have to depend on a Nigerian passport, approval, and regulations to thrive.
Would it have any impact, for instance, if Nigeria said, okay, Niger, you come and sit down and tell us what you think about this, 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 this. Then they can take whatever they want from Niger and use, and whatever they don't want, they let go.
We've been doing that. We've been having talk shops. We've been having conferences, participation, submit bills. But we have enough policy and bills in the nation now that can take us to where we want to go. What we want to see is action, consistent small actions that is showing where we are going to. Remember, I recall that said that every time all of these actions happen, you ask yourself, what is the nature of the problem they are trying to solve? Because if you see, and in countries that want to go, you look at all actions, and you see a thin line that is going through, and that thin line is actually strategy. Where do they want? What do you want to achieve? You know, because by praising those systems, okay, you want to become the tourism capital of the world. Everything you will be doing will show that you are going there. If you are doing everything that is discoordinated, then we are not going anywhere.
What do you think we want to achieve by regulating social media?
As you had mentioned, to be honest, the perception, and you know, based on what had happened initially with the president, the deletion of the tweet and all that, it almost as if he had already created a foundation of distrust that you need to now ask yourself. Without people willing to ask yourself, so what are you trying to achieve with this?
So it's an open-ended question.
It's an open-ended question
now,
whether distrust is
Mr. Adalimo, if we are going to take this further, what should we prioritize? You have talked about culture, and I think you have even expanded the dictionary meaning and research meaning of culture now. So what else are we supposed to do? Ultimately, the whole entity belongs to all, whether they are Niger or Nigerian. So what should those who are not within the control system be doing to help or compel those within the control system to do the needful?
So I'll say two things. What I tell young entrepreneurs, because I also train entrepreneurs, is that sometimes you need to become a politician and use propaganda as a tool. So if you're building a system, and if you look at Paystack and Flutterwave and the rest of them, in their speak, they're constantly saying, thank God for the CBN for helping us do this. You cannot say, I did this on my own, I don't need anybody. Go to, excuse my language, go to hell, the government. When I build systems, I invite Nigeria and give them the honor for giving me the platform to build that system in the first place. It is an intrinsic part of our culture in Nigeria that you want that kind of honor from someone that is younger. You will support that young person. So I can walk into a governor's office, I can walk into a minister's office, I can call people in the NCC and say, I need this, and oh, that guy, don't know, he's humble, he's all right. I am not stupid. So Nigeria needs to learn that, right? Nigeria also needs to do certain things they have done well in silos that shows that there's a potential. And I'll give the second example is the Nigerian Super Eagles jersey. Who on earth will ever dream that the Super Eagles jersey will be on demand in the whole world? What did Amaju Pinnick, who is Nigeria, what did he do to get...
Are you sure he will call himself Nigeria or Nigeria?
So those silos of successes that we see, they need to begin to replicate that. They need to study it and say, what happened here? How did we resonate with all the youth globally? They need to continue to do that, not just in sports, they now need to do it in leverage in every sector. That is how both parties can come to the same table and agree.
Thank you very much. So, Nigeria.
Now I know we are different.
There has to be a convergence.
Oh, wait. There are some of us that are Nigeria.
There has to be a convergence.
Yes, we are the convergent Nigeria.
There he goes. Mr. Ayowande Adalimo, CEO with 5 Wireless and Mr. Adeola Kayode, brand communications expert. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
To
Thank
have
you
this
so much.
discussion with us this morning. Sunrise will be back in just a moment with the home stretch. Do stay with us.
I don't know what you make of that song, but it just so happens that Afrobeat is one of my beloved
Weaknesses.
Yeah, you can say something like that, sincerely. You can say something like, I mean, come on. But I guess there is no cat at all, because it's
been let out of the bag. It's already out of the bag.
So we have with us a veteran musical performer and activist who bears many names. CB, his royal punkness, area father, which is Charlie Boy Bust Up.
Area boy. He's turned to an area father now.
Area G father. Oh, but you should always.
I do apologize.
And guess what? Today is his birthday.
Happy birthday,
Yeah.
Charles Chukwuemeka Opucha.
Oputa, yeah.
Many happy returns.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
For a long time, we didn't know how old you were.
Me too.
So how old are you today?
A year older?
After, I don't know, about a year older. About a month ago, when I ran my check as usual every 6 months, and my doctor said to me, "There's something interesting happening in your body." And I said, "What?" He said, "Since I last checked you last year, you seem to remain the same, 70. So I'm celebrating the anniversary of my 70th birthday." Did you get that?
How many years after?
Yes.
A year after. It didn't be like saying with a joke.
Work that one out.
Yeah, you know.
So, Charles, where have you been since you ran away from Lagos?
Please don't tell me you've been to London to see the king. Because they only have
I tried that too, but
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
You had to come
I
back,
couldn't
huh?
see the queen. You know? Well, I've been here and there. It depends on exactly where you're looking at, you know. But I've still been in the system, been doing what I know how to do. That's talk with young people, try to strengthen their mindset, ginger them, give them hope. I've been doing that, and I have no intention to stop, you know. But what I've slowed down a bit on is street protests, you know, because I also realized that I ain't no spring chicken. You know?
Yeah, it wouldn't be nice for your grandchildren to see you on television.
You know? So,
In terms of encouraging younger people, you collaborated with Falls, the bad guy.
yeah, many people, many young, you know, youths give me, they keep me bubbly. They keep me youthful and useful, you know, so it's always interesting working with young people who are very aware of the surrounding and who know exactly what they're doing. And I've always said that the salvation of the contraption called Nigeria is in the hands of its exceptional youths. Only them can salvage this country.
And how do you propose we go about that, you know, given the scheme of things, the way you see things going on around now? How do you think we should be engaging these young people, this Salvation Army?
Having a platform where you can always talk to them.
Such as?
Your Instagram, your Facebook, you know, Sunday service, go to the motor park, wherever.
Sunday
Wherever you see young people, that's where you go to minister to them.
Are you very active on social media?
under which rock way they hide this woman? I they ask me all this. Are you from Ghana? Am I active in social? Damn, yes, I am active. Young people are my audience. Where do they live? Social media. On the social highway. So if I know they there, where one day now, I go relate to them now. How can we communicate now? Which kind of question be that? Adjust yourself.
So now that Twitter has been banned,
Suspended.
suspended. How is that affecting your relationship?
I still send messages. I still tweet. I haven't stopped. Yeah. If you don't know how to do them, after I go teach you how to do them. You see, this is what I keep saying, okay? People from the 18th and the 19th century, medieval thinking people, medieval thinking barbarians, there is no way they can defeat and understand the mindset of the millenniums from the 21st century. They may be able to cause interruptions here and there and disturb. I mean, we know what happened at the toll gate.
But
right?
how you would also agree that a lot of the challenges are coming from people of your generation?
What do you mean? Exactly. I don't understand.
Older people?
Yeah, of course now. Now we spoil Nigeria now.
Okay.
Because when we had a chance to make it, and I've apologized several times, people of my generation and people before my generation, now we spoil Nigeria now. Because where were all the good ones when they started to see how things were changing? I mean, what we are experiencing today in Nigeria didn't just start.
Absolutely.
3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's been there. It's systematic. Okay?
Not just systemic, systematic.
Yes. Systemic, systematic. Now you know. Yeah? You can't build a house. You can't keep putting floors on a building with a faulty foundation. You can't do that.
What you're saying now reminds me of one of your songs that I really loved in the past, before the elections of, the Third Republic. You wrote a song, I think, in the 88, 89, titled 1990, which title changed, yes.
1989.
89,
yeah,
which title changed to 1992 when government moved the goalposts. Head under the wait for 1990. Now, my question now is, how come we weren't able to mobilize the young people of that age to be significant in the space of governance and all of that now, so as to change some of those narratives we were trying to push with that song?
Well, I did my best for 45, almost 50 years of my life. I spent in active advocacy with so many causes. But I'm most concerned with young people. It's for me to give the message. It's for you now to take that message and run with it. I can't run your race for you, can I? But I can give you all the advices from my experience, what to do and what not to do. It's left for you to accept that. Now, even at the toll gate incidents, okay, I wasn't visibly on site, yeah? But I knew what was happening every day. I was getting feedback from the boys. And I had said 2 days before that ugly incident, and I've told them, I said, listen, the enemies we're fighting, they're beasts, they're evil people, they're demonic. We're out here being sincere about what we want to do. We really seriously need a change. The environment has suddenly become toxic. We need to change that, because this is where the dreams of young people in this country dies. But the people you're dealing with, if you're not ready, because, you know, every day we're like, ah, wow, how can this happen? And then the next hour, we hear something more horrific, and we keep asking, how can this happen? Well, hey, wake up. It is happening. People from the medieval times against people, the futuristic people, and the millenniums of the 21st century. It is happening. And, well, the sentiment at the time was that, no, we can't stop what we're doing. We're getting some traction, you know. And then what happened. Because evil jumps. Evil jumps. When it started in somewhere in the north, far away in the north, we said, not them, make them kill themselves there. When kidnapping started in Delta State, when they kidnap all those, I said, not them, made them they kidnap them. Now, you know, they're everywhere. They're everywhere now. So, we have a big fight on our hands.
Charles, let's talk music.
But I beg.
Let's talk music.
Today is my day. I'm supposed to be happy, cheery, even with all the problems that we go through as Nigerians. You know, we should also try and be kind to ourselves, because to be a Nigerian, to live in this Nigeria, wow.
It's a task that must be
done. Only very tough.
Yes.
Now,
so let's talk music. Was that your latest that was shown to us? Just
no, that was like about 2 years ago.
Oh, that's old. Okay, but in that music sphere, you seem to have been MIA.
What is that? What's in action?
Yes.
Yeah, because for the past 15 years of my life, I had one of the sweetest, most noble jobs that I'm so proud of.
Grandpapa.
Okay? No, which grandpapa? I took care of my parents because I tortured my parents when I was little, you see. I gave them hell. Okay? So I was making restitution for my naughtiness, my badness, and my stubbornness. So that's how I went to the village, captured my parents, my father and my mother. I brought them to my home in Abuja. And for 15 years, I poured my heart out to them. I didn't care to do any other job. I didn't want any business. By the way, my father already taught me how to be a contented kind of person. He taught me how to live a very simple life. Okay? Taught me how to survive in any kind of weather. So I wasn't worried per se about myself. I wasn't doing business for 15 years while doing that job, taking care of them, making sure that every blessed day I see a smile or smiles on their faces. And they died very happy. Of course, 2 years gap, my father was the first to go, and then they died in my house. My father died in my house, my mother died in my house. The only thing that they didn't give me the privilege of seeing was for them to die in my arms, okay? Now, after that, there was nothing left for me to do in Abuja, you know, and I slipped into depression, okay? That is why you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't say there's no man that is too strong. No man could deform Samson, okay? I now decided to come back because I was also giving up on my street protest. I had to find another powerful tool, you know, because as the president of all frustrated Nigerians, it's my duty and obligation, you know, to keep gingering the young people.
While you were away for those 15 years, the music industry, your industry, thrived, continued, so to speak.
Yeah. Because some people fought for all of that. I don't know how young or how old you are, but if you're a man around town and you've kept with the news, you know that there was a time, not too long ago, about 15, Between 15, 18 years ago, it was taboo to play Nigerian music for club.
Yeah,
Just,
that was...
nobody want to hear that one.
Yeah, it was the revolution of the time that you did that song that I mentioned.
Yeah, just that time space. And there was a time, even on radio, they were only allowed to play 15 or 20% of Nigerian stuff. And there was an influx of foreign musicians who were coming to Nigeria.
Yeah.
With corporate Nigeria disrespecting our people, our own homegrown people. And I said, that can't happen. Charlie Boy is here. You better not. You know how many times I went to jail for that? You know how many times I was picked up and I was beaten? And I say, foreign artists cannot come to this country at the disrespect of our own people. And corporate bodies should stop doing that kind of nonsense. Yeah, we went to war, but we won.
Clearly.
We won because, that's the bane of pioneers. Nobody knows how it started. Nobody knows, those who have fought.
But the challenge then, Charlie Boy, is that period that you talked about saw the evolution of an industry. But would you say that we still have that industry now as opposed to the way it was then?
No, we don't. It's more Jabajantis now. But the beauty of it is that there's more endorsement, there are more shows, save for this COVID-19. Yeah? More shows, and the artists of the now are making more money.
Yeah.
We didn't make any money in our time.
Well, you guys were very expensive.
Which kind
I'll tell you why.
I beg.
You guys, you always have to go with the band. You always have to go with the band. I mean, like a full band, but today, it's just one DJ.
Well, that one day, but
and your band had to be big.
But no, I'm happy because I used to say even in those days that for every Michael Jackson, I can give you 100 on my street too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So why are you bringing in, foreign artists and disrespecting our people? I mean, it didn't make sense.
Okay, now that Charlie Boy is back, what's Charlie Boy back with? What's new?
You go hear them now. After 12 o'clock, go and download the new songs. There's no need for me to be making mouth, stay on your TV.
Okay, don't make mouth. Just give us a snippet.
Which kind of snippet? I know whole snip. Just go. Just go download the thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are talking about.
Oh, okay. You got this one.
That's it? Okay, tell us about this.
This is kind of old too. You guys got old stuff, man. I'll tell you about this one. Yeah,
well, that's
I was talking about, the people, religion has taken over our sense in Africa. We know they think again. Blood of Jesus, where is here? We there everywhere, Tangara, everywhere, things just they spoil, everywhere na poto. They ask you, how is it? You say it is well. It is well for where? It shall be well. I understand. That's positivity. But to tell me it is well when it's not well.
They are calling the things that be not as though they were.
See, you follow them. So they look so you follow them. Religion has damaged us. So I'm talking about pastors who are supposed to be, set moral standards and all of that. And I see how the congregation, they are worshiping the pastor like saying, I am the God. What's wrong with these people? Abi the Mumuna follow come.
The Mumu never do.
No, wait.
You never do now.
Please, that Mumuna follow come. What is that?
What follow come? That is, your ancestors have been Mumu right from time. They just, from generation to generation, you keep being able, they share. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so after this download is a song? You said at 12 o'clock we should go and download
Yeah,
something.
go download.
Is it a song?
They are songs.
Songs?
Yes.
Full album?
No, I'm doing just an EP, about 4 new songs.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
And, you know, I'm really excited because for the first time, let me share this with you. For the first time, I'm never one that, I don't get high on my job. You see what I mean? When I do them, I don't do them. It's the doing that I enjoy. After I've done it, I can keep it under the bed, you know. Anytime I see you, I feel plan for you. It's the doing that excites me the most. So this is one project that after doing it, I was like, gee, I did try you. After staying away for so long in the business and I'm back and it's like, I never really went anywhere. No. I'm a special edition.
Even if you say so yourself.
Even if I say so myself, yes.
You have a question for him before I slide?
I think say all of them, I don't get tongue-tied. They soon at the 5 questions, I just come here and I know if you talk again.
The kind of questions that I would have loved to ask you, you don't want those questions to come. No, we only have 2 minutes to break to actually
close.
Send you away from our studio.
You go send me away. If I know you come out and come.
Program closed and you sit down by yourself.
Okay, so you just a quick one. You've talked about how excited you are about the way things have been since, you know, the industry that you fought for and all of that. So what do you expect the younger generation, the Burna Boys, the Wizkids and the rest of them to do with all of the victories that they are scoring now?
They're doing what they should do right now. But I need them to lend their voice too, you know. They're doing that, they're saying it in their songs, but be more vocal about the suffering of the common man, you know, because not everybody wants to go that direction, and that's understandable, you know. There are different kinds. Music is just to inform and entertain. So, you know, we didn't come into music because of the business, because we don't know how to do business. We are creative people. But some people have the gift and the gap of being also business-minded and creative. And I think it's a big blessing from God.
So a quick one, if you are to recommend reinstating the industry part, the business part of show business, especially music, in terms of music, what should we be doing?
We should be putting a house in order and all the collecting society, strengthening P-Man, so on and so on. But you see, it's all about leadership. If you have yeye people running something, the thing will still be yeye. You understand? I mean, if you compare what's happening, okay, take P-Man for instance, and what was happening in our time, in P-Man, or even in Tony Okoroji's time, as P-Man, there is clear. Yeah.
Well, it's your birthday, so we have to say thank you for making out the time.
Where is the cake now?
No, you are the one that is supposed to bring the cake.
It's my birthday. Let me go bring cake on.
If I come your house, I know
you police.
Yes.
What's in your car?
Police.
Charlie boy, we have to thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for the privilege of hosting you on your birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday and many happy returns.
Thank you.
Indeed. And Charlie Boy brings to a close sunrise for this day. We'll bring you a fresh edition next Saturday. I'm Alera Edu, wishing you all the best, and please stay out of trouble.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.